Ellie's non-conforming, but.
Right. Oh, well, same. Sometimes he tries to throw the coffee pot at me.
Oh, that's not good. So at the end of this quarantine, I'm adding on to what may happen. A, we're going to be alcoholics. B, we're going to be really good cooks. C, some people are going to be pregnant. Obviously not me. D, there's going to be a lot of divorces. You know, we've got all kinds of things that could happen from this.
I hear ya.
My son just booked a trip to St. Thomas in November for $1,000.
Oh my gosh.
Flight, a house, and a car rental.
I'm trying to get Kurt. I was looking last week and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, but look at the prices.
I know. We were talking about that. It may be time to plan the next family trip.
Right?
Yes.
Not that I would wish divorce on anyone, but a divorce is a chance for 3 deals.
Oh, there we go.
One house, help them buy 2.
That's right. I have a lot of those going on right now. Transactions.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, Alicia, I see you're in. I just got your text.
Yes, I am. It wouldn't let me in.
Yeah. I think if Janine and I are not on, it won't take into the meeting.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because the meeting has to be set with, I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure either.
Yep.
Well, we're all in, so it's good.
Good.
I've got the baby this morning, so I turned my screen off, and I'll probably mute myself, so.
Just in case, right?
Yep.
Very fun. So what does everybody have going on this week?
Nothing new.
Nothing new? Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of, we got our inspection done and now we have a couple things that we're working through with that.
Wonderful.
Yay, Bethany.
And how's that going?
It's good. I know I talked, and it's with Jay Schmidt actually.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
What property is it?
It's the, on 61st Street.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So there's just a couple things, and you know, I know that the sellers are, you know, in the medical field and have a baby, and they're a little overwhelmed and crazy. And my family's trying to move back from California, and they have a 1-year-old. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we're just kind of like, we're so close, you know, there's just some little punch items, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, the sellers are like, we're probably, you know, we can't repair anything. Don't have the time, energy. Our HUDs are crazy. And so we're working through credits.
Okay, so this is a really good segue into not only when you write a competitive offer, now let's say you get it. And I think the expectation is with those competitive offers is that, you know, you're gonna be really kind on home inspection. So that's where things get that's where the communication link comes in, because that's, I think, what we've been dealing.
Uh-oh, she's frozen.
There you are.
Oh,
We're back.
we're back. Okay.
Yep.
Is now that you've got the offer accepted, how do you keep it going with a competitive home inspection amendment?
Right.
So, okay. All right. So shall we start, Miss Connie?
Yep. Let's exit full screen. Oop, hang on, hold on. Okay, share screen. Sometimes I have to talk my way through this. I'll get this down pat. I truly will.
Hey, you're further ahead than me.
Where in the heck did it go? I just had it. Hang on, so sorry. Okay, there we are. Let's get into zip forms. Oop, where'd you guys go?
We're here.
We're here.
What the hell? Let me close a couple of my other screens here. Sorry.
So it actually has been really great working with Jay and Beverly.
Oh,
They're
good.
wonderful.
Yes, good.
It's just been so awesome to have this be a Keller Williams listing too.
Yes. I
So,
know. It makes
As
it,
soon as I pulled up and when I found out that was the house they wanted to look at, I'm like, oh, yes, let's
yay.
do this.
So if I recall, that home belonged to the owner of Firefly.
Oh, seriously?
Oh, really?
Previously. Yeah.
Oh, before these people. Yep.
Yep. I'm
'Cause
pretty sure.
they've been in it for 8 years, the current sellers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's adorable little house. It really is.
Yeah. And I think those people moved from Dallas into that house.
Ah,
My memory is correct.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I am not,
Ah,
Okay, well,
chat just a little bit. I can't find
yeah.
my.
All right, so we can start talking about when we're writing an offer and we want to make it competitive. So let's assume
That smell.
that the property is listed at 400,000. You've run comparables, and that's aggressive, but it's not out of, the realm of
reality.
overpriced.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you're going to do if your buyers are interested is what?
Besides the comparables, you mean?
Besides the comparables, you're going to sit down and write an offer. You
Talk
have
to
the
listing agent.
Yep, you're going to call the listing agent. And what are you going to ask the listing agent, Annie?
I'll try to get as much information out of them as possible. And so ask them open-ended questions and see what they can give me on how flexible they are about price, if there's any, if they have to move, when they have to close, if there's anything that the seller needs during the transaction that my buyer can provide.
Or how long they're going to be accepting offers,
Yep. So there's a lot. Yeah, exactly. So I ask a lot of questions because sometimes agent's mouth. I ask, is there currently an offer? If they say yes, I'll say, is that offer from yourself? I always want to know.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yep. Are you writing an offer personally? What is the buyer's motivation? What is most important to them when we write an offer? Which that could sound like a stupid question, but you wouldn't believe what has been shared. Sometimes it's not the price, it's the close date, or it's not the price, but it's, whatever. And then if I try to ask, how can we win with the seller? What would be a big win over anyone else? Majority of people are going to say it's the price, but listen to what they say. And
So Janine, when you write an offer, you always call the listing agent.
always, I can't imagine ever writing an offer without calling a listing agent. We need to find out a lot of information.
I think the most important part about writing an offer is calling that listing agent and seeing what the seller wants, because you can write a fabulous offer, but if it isn't on the top of the seller's mind, you don't stand a chance.
Right.
So if we were to list the top 5 things that we are asking the seller agents, what would it be, Janine?
First of all, what is buyer motivation or seller motivation? What is their motivation? When is...
Oh, we froze. Hello? Are you back, Janine? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, Janine, we lost you.
Oh,
There you are. Okay,
Closing
so
date.
number
Yeah.
1 would be seller motivation.
Yep.
We lost you right after that.
Seller motivation, ideal closing date, let's talk about binding acceptance when they're receiving offers.
Yep.
I would ask them how many offers are on the table or do you already have in hand? And how can we win with the seller? Plain and simple. What matters most? What would be a great offer?
And I find it depends on the experience of the listing agent on how they answer these questions.
Yeah.
There are some agents who I've dealt with, I just know what to expect. Just write your highest and best, period.
Yeah.
Other people will spill out the whole life story of the sellers and you know exactly what to write. And I have one agent, I don't even call him, I call his assistant because she tells me everything.
Oh my gosh.
But the listing agent will not, he always says, just write your highest and best.
So what happens, you guys, when you are going to write an offer and you can't get a hold of that agent?
Sometimes, like, you go and look, how long has it been on the market? Was it on the market before? You can kind of read between the lines on things, maybe see what it was priced before. Did it expire? What's the price now?
Yep. So there's a lot of investigating even before you write that offer, is looking at the history. But we're assuming that this is a newer listing and it's competitive. So, and even prior to writing that offer or prior to showing that great property, you know, to train your buyers and yourself to make sure you're sharing the delayed listings in their portal.
Yep.
And teaching them how to read when it goes live. So it starts there of being competitive, getting in the door first. You don't go in second or third day if this is a hot property. You want to be there right away. And then of course the first question is, if it's not an MLS, when are offers being presented?
Mm-hmm.
As they come in, or is there a certain time and day that you are presenting offers? So get a
and
feel
also
for that.
keep in mind, in the bottom of the listing, there's a line for private remarks. In that private remarks, many agents will put offers being presented on Sunday as per seller's request. They may say co-listed with another agent, or it may be listed under agent A, but it is truly listed by agent B. Take note and look at those things. You will appear to be more intelligent when you call that agent. And they tend to be less frustrated with you if you already know what's written in the listing. Can you see the offer to purchase now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that so that you and your buyer are irresistible, and also ask, does the seller need the proceeds to be able to purchase their new home? This tells us if they may need post-occupancy time and how flexible they'll be when it comes to close. Do you write offers when the status says contingent in MLS? Depends on the situation. That's a phone call to the listing agent. You would be a secondary offer. You have a convo with the listing agent. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving along. So you're now going to write the offer. Purchase price. So again, let's say the property is $400,000. You feel it's slightly competitive. You've been told that there's several showings, no offers yet. What are you going to do with the price when you write an offer? Buyers really want it.
Go at listing price.
400,000 is listing. Yeah. What do you think you should do? You don't see it anything really over 410.
What can the buyer afford?
They can go up to 450.
Huh. Do they have contingencies, like need a long closing date or?
Nope. It can be 60 days, but there's lots of interest.
Janine, what's your thought on escalation clauses?
Well, that's a very good question. I would talk to the listing agent about that before I write, because I'm going to let them know that, you know, we're going to be writing an offer. There are some listing agents, believe it or not, that do not like that clause.
Well, I agree. And you know, and I, as a listing agent, if someone's writing that, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to come back at the top of their escalation clause.
Yeah.
You know,
I've gotten a couple, maybe the last 3 months. One of my said, I wish they would have just offered their best price to begin with. They feel like it's kind of
Aggressive.
Can you, for those on the call that might not be familiar with an escalation clause, can you just give a very quick definition?
Yeah, it's a clause in which the verbiage is, we will go up to a certain price. So let's say the offer is 400,000. We will go up to 410,000 if there is an offer that is over the 400,000, and they will beat it by, and you have to put in that language, by $500. So I will exceed the next best offer up to 410,000 by an increment of 500,000. So let's say the next best offer was 405. That escalation clause would then take effect, and it would be 5.5. And with that, so let's say that seller accepts it, they have to prove and show to the buyers that there indeed was an offer, and it goes directly to the buyer. So you have to show proof that, yes, we were really competing, and here is the offer. So it sounds confusing. It really isn't. It is a tool when you're in competition. I would just make sure that all parties are aware that this is coming. Some listing agents flat out will say, the seller is not interested in an escalation clause, which sometimes says to me, the listing agent really doesn't know how to present that. It's over their head. So they just say, oh, nope, seller's not going to do that. So it's a conversation to have.
so Janine, on my first listing, we went live on a Monday at 379, and I had an offer that day, and I had other showings the rest of the week, like 5 or 6. And they wrote the offer that if I would respond to them within so many hours, that
Yep.
they offered us an extra $8,000
Love it.
above it. So just obviously just to stop all the other showings and getting other offers. And obviously we took it, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of a nice thing. So that I learned that I could possibly do in the future for my buyers.
Yeah, that's one. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. I had to
Janine, here's the
respond
verbiage
within,
for that
Oh,
escalation clause.
yep, here's the
Oh, that's in there.
Yep. Yep.
So it reads, if seller receives any other bona fide offer to purchase the property prior to, this is your acceptance date, with a net price equal or greater than, let's say 400,000, the buyer agrees to pay 410,000
Yeah.
more than said net price up to a maximum, or excuse me, agrees to pay, say $500 more
$500 more. Yep.
than the maximum amended purchase price of 410.
10.
If the seller within 2 days of receipt of such other offer delivers a complete copy of such offer directly to buyer, not broker, by approved delivery method, which would be email, then the accelerator clause will be executed in an amendment to the offer to purchase. So after this price is accepted, then the buyer's agent needs to write an amendment to their purchase price. So this is your verbiage for that escalation clause. Does that help everybody? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and where you find this is when you do your drop down for your amendment. Keep moving my box out of the way. When you do your drop down for your amendment, this verbiage will pop up when you click on that little pencil. I know we've talked about it with people. So here's your amendment to the offer to purchase.
Yeah.
When you click in the field here, now it's going to get funny on me. When you click on your field, I can't get it. It will auto-populate when you click amendment and escalation clause. Okay?
So, as a listing agent, you may get 2 or 3 of those.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always fun. That's when you get a spreadsheet out and figure that one out. So, okay. So
can I just ask, sorry, so Mary Beth, in your case, when you wrote that offer or you received that offer, did you then have to show that to the other buyer?
Well,
Or you never got that far?
we never got that far. We went live on Monday. They were a 4 o'clock showing Monday afternoon. They knew that there was a bunch of showings coming, so we listed at $379. They offered that, but if I responded within so many hours, the price was $387.
So I guess this is my question. Why didn't they write the 387 and have them respond within that time frame and have that conversation with you? We're going to write an aggressive offer and we are putting a short response time in because they're not fooling around.
Well, when she called me and asked what we had going as far as showings coming up, and I said that my owner had fallen and gotten a concussion. So I said we would like to wait 48 hours if we could to review offers. Just, he was okay, but I wanted to make sure he was okay. And I wasn't making these determinations for him. So I said, we'd like to wait 48 hours. So then I kind of let everyone know it was going to be a 48-hour window, but her buyers wanted it. So she pushed me to that. I took it.
Yeah, it's just an interesting way of things other than writing, a very aggressive price and say, here you go, we want to know by 5 o'clock. Yeah. Otherwise, the offer is interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, so we have the offer purchase price and we're writing it with inclusion and exclusions. Be really careful that you have everything really clean in your offer, that you didn't make a mistake that listing agent can find and then send it back as a counter. Like, I forgot to put something in as an inclusion, or you put something in the inclusion which was an exclusion. So be very mindful because this is not the time to make a mistake. Right, Connie?
Yep, I agree 100%. Because if they counter back, keep in mind that window is open for somebody else to come in and submit another offer.
Yep.
The longer you counter back and forth, other offers may come in and they may just reject yours and take another offer.
So make sure it's clean. Don't forget, look it over again, because when we're excited and we're in a rush and we're getting everything together, you still need to go back before you submit it to make sure that you did everything correctly. Okay.
So coming back, Janine, our house is 400,000. There are many showings, but there are no offers yet.
Yep.
So what I would do is ask the agent, when I get you an offer, how quickly can I expect a response? Because my buyers are super excited.
Yeah.
And this is where I would, look at my purchase price and see what we can offer. If she says there's a lot of offers and we are not making any decisions until tomorrow when everybody sees this house.
If there is indeed that verbiage, am I gonna submit my offer tonight rather than tomorrow? What do you guys think?
I think
To
that
the
if-
no.
sometimes what happens, and we all know this, but sometimes what happens if you're the first in, that is used as a leverage to get other brokers to write.
Yep.
And even though that listing agent cannot disclose what your offer price is, and they shouldn't, then it's just, there's such a fine line. It is. It's like a game. Okay, do we want to wait until the 11th hour and get ours in? I don't know. I'm curious what you all think about that.
Yeah, if they are indeed going to be presenting offers, let's say 12 o'clock noon on Tuesday, I'm probably not going to get my listing or my offer sent over to them until 10 in the morning.
Mhm.
I don't want my offer to be shopped.
Correct.
So, and before I send it over, and I would have that conversation with my buyer, we may have everything teed up to be sent over the next day. But what I will say to my buyer is, listen, before I send it over, I'm going to have a conversation with that listing agent, hopefully, if they answer their phone, and kind of find out how things are being teed up today, how many offers they have, so on and so forth. And if I can get anything out of that listing agent, I will let you know. And if we need to adjust, and if you're okay with adjusting things, that's when we're going to do it. So please be available at 10 o'clock so I can give you the updated news. So
I have also asked the listing agents, now they can't tell you the price, but I have asked them, will full price be enough?
yeah,
So you're not asking them the price, but will full price be enough? And some people say, just write your highest and best. And others will say full price will not be enough.
right.
What if you're working with somebody who wouldn't have like a home sale contingency or a financing contingency, and they're willing to go, I don't know, a little over, like 5,000-10,000 over? Is it worth a call to the agent to say, like, I know you said you weren't presenting, but if we do write an offer right now and give you until tonight, you know, like, would that be enough? Is that worth a call or not worth a call?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely worth the call. That's a sticky widget, you know.
Yeah.
And then if, as a listing agent too, if you think you've got a hot property and you say in MLS, any and all offers to be presented 12 o'clock noon on Tuesday, you're taking a risk, because what if you don't get any?
Yep.
Yeah.
And in this market, my goodness, we have some properties that shouldn't even be sold. And then we have some that should be wildfire. And we're getting one showing just because, you know, some people are really staying at home that should be buying at this point in time.
Yeah. So I guess the message is conversation and communication. And you will find out that some agents are super available and they're communicative and all of that. And you're going to find, unfortunately, agents that don't pick up their phone, and you're just kind of shooting in the dark. So I try to use all forms of communication. If I can't get a hold of an agent, email, text, phone number, email to me, just, I keep going at them to see if I can get something. But there are times, you guys, will not hear from the other side. And, you know, then you're just going to have to do the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So moving on with the offer to purchase. Did we decide on a price?
Let's say 410.
Okay, so 410. Included in the purchase price, as Janine said before, make sure that this is filled in correctly. If they have all of their appliances included, make sure that's covered. If there is something that your buyer loves, say the swing set in the backyard, and it is not listed in inclusions, call the listing agent and see if it will be a deal breaker, or they may say, oh my gosh, I just forgot to put that in the listing. So make sure that you keep that communication open. And I think this is the key with, and I know that I and Janine have won deals because of our communication with the other agents. So make sure that you do put the correct items in the included in purchase price and not included in purchase price. If something is not included in the purchase price, put in here the antique chandelier in the front doorway. Because when the seller sees that, they will be overjoyed that nobody wants grandma's antique chandelier in the front doorway.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I was doing the WRA like training yesterday, and it said like sometimes, you know, brokers put in private remarks, home warranty included. And it said that we should put that in the inclusion in the purchase price.
Yes.
Otherwise, we can be out of luck on that one.
Correct.
Okay.
But that is not included in the purchase price in this section. There's another section in the offer to purchase that you will be checking the box for home warranty.
Okay, because it sounded like when I listened to the training that it said it should be on line like 11 in the inclusion, and then you also put it on that other form.
I've seen it from several different offers presented to me that we offer the home warranty, and they put it in the inclusions.
Okay.
But you have it also on addendum A.
Right. That's where I was like wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, some people do not use the WRA addendum A. They
Right.
use the state addendum A, and on the state addendum A, there is not a box to check for home warranty. That could be it.
Okay. Okay.
That could be it. We like to use the WRA addendum.
Yeah, that's why I was a little confused with that.
Yes, that could be. No, I wasn't in on the training, but if I were to guess, if I were a betting woman, that would be my guess on where that is.
Okay.
It wouldn't
Thank
hurt,
you.
right, Connie? It wouldn't hurt if you put it up there.
No, it wouldn't hurt. You can be redundant and reiterate whatever you want on an offer. I've seen, but keep in mind, we want to keep this as clean as possible. The less extra writing that's on an offer, the cleaner it looks. Right, Janine?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have seen it. I have seen it.
Yep. Should we move on?
Let's move on.
Okay. BA, line 40.
Ding dong. So this is again where you have that conversation with the listing agent. So let's say she was very clear and said, binding, I am presenting at noon on Tuesday. When would you put your binding acceptance?
Anybody?
2 o'clock.
Yeah, make sure, as I am a primary listing agent, I have said, yep, we're presenting noon. It's in MLS, noon Tuesday. Here comes the offer, binding acceptance, noon on Tuesday. No, Sally. No, Sally. It's going to take me a little bit to get back to you. So they're not going to.
Probably do 5. And better yet, I would ask the listing agent, when can I expect a response?
Yeah.
I value your time. When can
Yeah.
I expect a response on this?
Yep. So for me, and this is how everyone's binding acceptance, and it depends in a state. Is there a lot of people that need to be on board with this? What's the situation?
Yep.
How, what is the capability of the listing agent? Oh, sorry. So yeah, that number is going to be, for me, I'd probably put 2 o'clock.
Yep.
Whatever.
And like Janine said, keep in mind, if this is an estate and they have to get a hold of all 3 kids in order to make a decision, even 2 o'clock will be too soon. So that's where your communication with that listing agent needs to be open to say, we have to consult with 3 kids in the estate. I really need until 5 o'clock.
Right. Because if you put a time that is before they can get an answer, then there you go. You're already out in some respects. They can use that as an out. All right. So, Oh, I keep trying to move it on my own. I can't.
I gotcha.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So then, going on to 47, 48, closing. We have got to have that conversation with that listing agent. When is the ideal closing? And can those buyers accommodate that?
Keep in mind, if they have another purchase of a home, they will probably want to do a double closing and have a specific date. If they're being transferred for a job, they may be gone in a month. If they're older people or pack rats, they may need 60 days.
Yep. So that's a great conversation to have. Closing date.
I wondered, is that an actual date on line 48, I think it was? Or is it closed by 60 days? Okay, it's the date.
It's the date. So you actually put a date in there.
Thank you.
Question for you here. So I just ran into this because I changed my closing date. So the new form says transaction to be closed on specific date. The old form used to say on or before. So are you putting on or before on that now, or are we just leaving it as is? So you don't have to amend it if you wanted to close earlier. Does that make sense?
I do not put on or before, because sometimes that can really scare a seller. Just even though we can explain it, like, what do you mean before? So I put it pretty much in, and then I have been moving closing dates all around all the time, and that's easy to do with an amendment.
Okay, yeah, I just said when I was just curious to know, because the old form used to say on or before.
Yep,
Okay.
I know. Yep, good question.
Thank you.
Is it possible, or is it okay to say that, to put the closing date, you talked with the seller, or you talked with the seller's agent, they say that, it's an older couple, they're going to need a little bit of time to pack up everything. So you put in, May 15th, which is 60 days, but then add a clause, though the buyer is flexible. Is it okay to put that in there to make it more attractive when you know that they may be having an issue getting out?
I would put that maybe in your email when you're sending over the offer, and again, back that up with a conversation.
Yep.
And in the end of the contract, there's also additional provisions, and you can put in the additional provisions, buyer is flexible on closing date.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Janine,
questions.
Just so I'm clear, Janine, you're recommending that time, it is within 45 days, 60 days, and that's your verbiage that you're using?
No.
Instead of a hard date?
Hard
No,
date.
I put a hard date. Oh yeah, hard date.
Okay.
Yep.
Glad I asked.
I'm glad you did too. Make sure that date doesn't fall on a weekend. I've seen a couple of those lately too.
Just had one.
See, Peter?
That's for May 9th, which is a Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the new forms don't say if it falls on a weekend, it will be the following Monday. That doesn't say that anymore. Because didn't they used to say that?
No.
That was for closings. That was actually extra verbiage that you can input for if dates and deadlines fall on a weekend, that it falls to the following Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my Sally makes up all this stuff that I'm dealing with right now. So
Got it.
Poor Mary Beth has one of those agents she's dealing with. So on her first transaction, she almost quit. And I said, this is not everybody, I promise you. And everybody will come in contact with that agent that just really likes to make things difficult and rewrite their own verbiage and what have you. Try and keep it simple. If I receive an offer and there's a multiple offer situation, and if I have an agent who has crisscrossed, lined out, square danced around the whole entire offer, I put that on the side, the first offer. I put it aside, because if they're writing an offer like this, they are going to be difficult for the whole transaction.
Yep.
May I ask another question, please?
Yeah.
Offer, the line 48 said on or before May 9th. So I switched it in our counters to May 8th, that Friday. Now, they have asked if we can move closing up to April 30th. So we're still within the honor before.
Yeah.
I have permission from the sellers want to do it. Focus Title we'll find out tomorrow if they get clear title and specials. So we should be able to move to April 30th. Do I have to have an amendment? Or is
Yes, I would.
Not on the hold form.
I would just do an amendment to the offer to purchase because that is going to go to the lender and the title company. So they like to have that all buttoned up. Yes.
Okay.
Change it.
It keeps the lines clear. So Peter, you're saying you wrote that offer on the old offer to purchase?
No, this was an offer to purchase on a listing.
Correct.
So the offer came in with May 9th or before. I changed it to May 8th or before. That's fine. Now we've had
So you were,
communication back and
so
forth.
you were using the old offer to purchase?
No,
Or
I think they just wrote in on 48 and they wrote it for before, but I would still do an amendment to change the date.
Okay.
Especially because a weekend anyway, I would just write an amendment saying closing to be April 30th, Just keep it all in line.
And that's the only amendment.
Yeah.
Just the closing. Okay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Earnest money.
Keep in mind with earnest money, line 57, we do not normally use. This is earnest money of blank accompanies this offer. That means that they are submitting earnest money with the offer. In Wisconsin, in our area, it is normal that we do line 59. The earnest money of blank will be mailed within, and with the new form, it says 5 days after acceptance. Here's another way to watch your holidays and your weekends. If you have a 3-day earnest money deadline and you're writing your offer on Thursday, Friday is a holiday, Saturday and Sunday, they can't get to the bank, especially with banks not being open with their lobbies at this point in time. You will not be able to hit that earnest money deadline of 3 days. So definitely make sure you have 5. If we are in a tight situation, multiple offer, you can change that to 3 days, but make sure you watch your weekends and your calendar.
And this can all be done electronically now, by the way.
My goodness, I forgot about that. Imagine that. Short memory.
Good plug, Janine.
And I always put in on line 60 I always wrote in like 5 or 3, but I would write in business days. And it only has to be postmarked. They don't have to receive it. If it's postmarked within the 3 days, if you put in 3 days, you're fine. But yeah, I just put in business days, so then there isn't any question.
Correct. Now, we do have a question that says, what percentage of offers that you write include earnest money? 100%. Your earnest money is telling that seller that you are serious about your offer, and it's in goodwill that you will follow through with your offer because you are putting money down on the house / product. It's like going in for a car and saying, oh yes, I want to buy this car, and not putting money down on it. They can sell that house because you do not have any interest in that property, or not the house, but in that car, because you don't have any interest in it. So with the house, you are showing goodwill on putting that earnest money down toward the property. So Janine, how much do you put down for earnest money?
It depends. It depends on how much money the buyer has to put down. Usually 2 to 3%.
Okay, and we always say 1 to 2% out in Lake Country.
Yeah, it just really depends. If it's,
well, and if it's $1 million property, how much are you going to put down?
Yeah, I've seen everything.
Yes.
It just, again, some sellers will look at that earnest money like it's everything. So it's whatever the buyer is. I always say, let's be competitive. Let's put 2 to 3% down. But if they can't, they can't. It goes towards your down payment. So, okay.
Question real quick. Is it competitive to do sooner than later? So if you had earnest money in 2 days, because you know that the buyer could get it there, is that make it more competitive, your offer, compared to 5 days?
I think so.
Yeah. I've
Depends on
seen
what you're comparing to.
come in with 1 day. Mm-hmm.
And Janine, where did you, when you said that it only has to be postmarked, I have not heard that. Is that written somewhere? Where is that from? Is that from our basic, schooling?
Yes. Shall be delivered and held to. I've always been told it had to be postmarked by that date.
Yep.
Is that what you've heard, Connie?
Yes. I'm looking here.
Yeah.
I thought it had to be in hand by that date.
Postmarked by. I'm looking in the contract here real quick. It's not popping out at me.
No.
But it's always been postmarked by.
Yep.
Was that in the last contract, Janine?
I think so. And I remember that being on our test.
Yeah. And held by.
And I've had a situation where wrote an offer, competitive, agent called me like 5 days later and said, I have not received your buyer's earnest money check. I said, okay, that's weird. Buyer sent me a photo of the check in the envelope. Like, no, we sent it. And it never got there. So they had to run down to the Shore West office and bring another check. And funny, 6 weeks later, he gets it back, the first check.
Oh.
I mean, who knows where it went, but it came back to him. It was addressed to the right place. Bizarre. So I would highly encourage the electronic method for everybody.
Janine, this is Teresa.
Pardon?
Hi, Janine. This is Teresa.
Oh, hi, Teresa.
That just happened to my buyers.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. We, well, my buyers mailed it from the post office as I was instructed.
Yeah.
It was lost somewhere out there, like for 2 weeks. So he went to his bank, a cashier's check, canceled it. You know, you have to pay for all of that.
Oh.
Got another one, drove it to the office, which was toward Madison.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it was a mess. Guess what? When he got back home that same day, it showed up at their office in the mail.
Yeah, that's why electronic delivery.
But guess what? That was his first question. Back in February, we started. He wanted to know if he could do it electronically. And this wasn't up and running then. So now it is. So
yeah,
that's what happens.
You know, some people don't have checkbooks. So
That's correct.
Hey ladies, it's Kathleen. So it's on line 59. Earnest money of blank will be mailed or personally delivered within X days. So the definition is it can be mailed. And I think the standard practice is to understand what date it was mailed. We go by the postmark date.
Postmark date. There you go. That makes sense.
So if you wanted, I think if you wanted to be a little competitive, you could cross off mail or commercially and just say earnest money will be electronically or personally delivered within X days, and just kind of let the selling agent or listing agent know that you're not intending to put it in the mail at all. It'll be at their office in 2 or 3 days or whatever.
Mm-hmm. If my client is going to mail an earnest check, I do what the grant I'm a development person. I wrote many, many grants. And so what you do is you tell them to go to the post office. When they stamp it with the date, and you just have them take a picture of that.
Yeah.
And so that way you have proof that it's been postmarked that day.
Mhm.
And I honestly think that whole verbiage will be taken out at some point because people will be doing it electronically. We're signing offers electronically. We're banking electronically. You know, you have to have a bank account in order to buy a house typically. So I think that will eventually go. So, but it is a form of, it is a way to compete with earnest money. If it was the same offer across the board, you know, you have 2 or 3 offers and they're pretty much the same.
So let's bring us back to our $400,000 offer.
Yeah.
If we have multiple offers.
Yep.
And earnest money is $500 or $4,000, who can afford this house?
4,000.
Right. You're going to look at the one with the highest earnest money if all things are equal. So it can be a form of competition.
Yep. Are we good?
Yeah.
Perfect. Moving on. What do we do here, Janine?
What do you do here? Time. I can't read the whole thing because our pictures are over it, but so time is of the essence as to number 1, earnest money payments. Number 2, I can't read it because our faces are over it.
Binding.
Yep. 3, occupancy. 4, date of closing. 5, contingency deadlines. Except for what? What do you put in there?
I don't put anything in there.
I have not used this.
I always put dashes in here because I want everybody to follow. What this is doing is saying, I guess what we could do is refer to this in our addendum CV with your times of the essence. In this, with what's going on right now with COVID, you could put any. I would actually just refer back to, I'm talking aloud, I apologize. I'm talking when my brain is working. I would just leave this blank and then add the addendum CV because the verbiage is correct in the addendum CV. So that would be the only time that you would really not be hitting your contingency deadlines.
Right. I've never written in it and I've never received anything in it.
Yep, correct.
Okay. Real estate condition report. All right, let's talk about this. Let's say that you're writing an offer and the condition report isn't online and it's competitive. Your buyers have not seen the condition report. You're asking for it from the listing agent, nothing. And you're writing this offer. What do you do with line 111?
NA, maybe not. I don't know.
Don't you strike it out?
Yes, and then you can put in lines 113, you know, how condition report to be delivered within so many hours of binding acceptance. That's what you can do, because we've come across this a couple times. Like, where is it? But also remember, don't leave that out by accident if it is included, because they could use that as, oh, they didn't put the date in there, so I have to now counter. It could be over something as nitpicky as that. So again, make sure you're crossing every T.
Perfect. Moving on. Inspection contingency. Line 194. So with your inspection contingency, keep in mind we used to write in here, any item deemed necessary by home inspector. With the new verbiage, it says this in here. If you're having a third party performing an inspection of, on line 198, you may have a swimming pool or a hot tub, underground watering system, you know, things that are not included in your standard home inspection. So this is where this would be put in. With swimming pools, it can be a large expense. if someone buys a pool and it leaks or the pump doesn't work, and I don't own a pool, so I don't know anything about this stuff, I always refer back to a swimming pool inspection. We are getting around the corner here of people opening their pools. God, I hope pretty soon. So this could be an option also of doing a swimming pool inspection. But other than that, I usually just put 3 dashes in here and leave it as is. How about you, Janine?
It depends. If I see that the chimney looks visually like there's something going on, I've done it all kinds of ways. If I'm in super duper competition, I may just put dashes. If I feel that there's something off, you know, most of the time I put roof foundation and chimney. Not all the time, because then if another party wrote it and did not put that verbiage in, then they might be like, wow, she's already going to inspect the roof foundation and chimney. So it's as is.
Yeah.
Hey, Janine, I have a question about that line 113. So if you're putting in their condition report to be delivered in 6 hours of binding acceptance, how do I know that if we don't like the look of that wrecker, my buyers can have an out?
Well, that I get it before I write that offer. You have an out with your home inspection.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Well, couldn't she also, if you're adding it to lines 113 to 15, I've done it where you put in there that, you know, the property condition report to be delivered to buyers within, you know, 48 hours of acceptance, and then add right on there buyers to have 24 hours to accept, you know, put something as you always have like a follow-up to that. I think you might be able to, you know, just be as thorough as you can and put that right in those lines.
That is not a bad idea, but if you're in heavy competition, they're probably going to go with another offer, to be honest.
Right, I understand if you're up against a ton of other offers. I know the less is best, but I'm just saying if you really are concerned about protecting your buyers, and I know you have the inspection contingency, but that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, there are some, I mean, we've listed some homes with real estate attorneys, and one of them did not want to release the condition report and was told by his partner that not to release the condition report until the accepted offer. And so we called our real estate attorney that we use here locally in Whitefish Bay, and she absolutely, you know, a seller should not, it's not in their best interest to release the condition report until the accepted offer has occurred. Crazy. And then we're saying, well, who is going to be writing on a property if there isn't a condition report? So it's very interesting.
Is that why sometimes in MLS under documents there is no record listed?
No, that's typically because the sellers haven't filled it out, and we run up against that a lot. It's like, please fill out the condition report and send it back. I think that's always the last document that we seem to be waiting for, is that condition report, which Janine, they can fill out online, by the way.
Janine, isn't the condition report a mandatory thing though?
They have to provide it, but it doesn't have to be provided before it goes on the market.
The condition report has to be a part of your transaction for our E&O insurance.
Right.
If that helps.
So it doesn't have to really be in there before you make the offer?
It should be.
It should be.
It should be.
Okay.
So if you can't find it in MLS documents and you've called the listing agent and you have to write that offer, this is what we're talking about, is what do you do if it's not there yet? You're not going to sit around and wait for it to show up because all these other offers are coming in. You just write it without it and put the verbiage in.
Yep.
And then if you have a property that is being sold, if someone passed and it's being sold by a state, and you know those wonderful words as is, because they cannot fill out a property condition report because they have not lived there. Should those words be entered up there then?
No.
I never add as is because you will
No.
always have an inspection.
Oh,
Right, but I mean, when you're when you just leave it blank, the property condition report, or shouldn't you specify what's going on here with this transaction?
I think it just says, as per the state, the seller have not lived on the property is what I see, so that they can't give any information about the record.
Right, just something in there, yeah.
If you are saying that in the offer to purchase that you're accepting this property as is, you have no recourse to come back and say, there's a hole in the roof and we do not want this property. I would never put as is on an offer to purchase.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying sometimes you come across, listings that where they say that this property is being sold as is. I'm not suggesting you put it in your offer. I would never do that either. I'm just saying that on that line, do you leave it blank or do you say something like sellers have never lived or
No, not when you're writing that offer. Nope, you just put the date of the condition report and leave it at that.
But if there is no condition report is what I'm saying.
Then they still have to provide one, even if they're going to go back and say as is or cross it off, which, you still have to write in the verbiage. Condition report will be provided within 24 hours. They still have to provide you something.
Good. Okay, inspection contingency. Line 194.
This is a good one, you guys. If you're in competition, what is one thing that you can do that is going to look attractive to a seller?
Well, not have the inspection contingency, but I'm not sure that that's in the best interest of your buyer.
Right.
Anybody
Depends
else?
on who the buyer is, but you're right. If it's an investor, they may say forget it. But what else could you do? That's a good one. Shorten the days. If you know you can get a home inspector in there right away. So if I'm writing an offer, competitive offer, I'm going to call my home inspector and see how soon they could get out to a property, if they could get out there within 2 days. So I already have that pretty much teed up. So I would shorten that home inspection to 7 days if possible.
Yep. And as Janine said, call your home inspector and see what their availability is right now.
So Janine, your line 207 is 7 days?
If I can, yeah. If I can. If I have the same offer as a listing agent and one said they're going to get inspected within 7 days, and say, you guys, they're serious. They want to get this party started right away. So they're making it more attractive for us. I don't want it to linger out there for 15 days on a home inspection if I have an offer at 7 and we can get that contingency waived, quickly.
Yep. And keep in mind, you need to know your buyer at this point in time. If you go to look at this house, and let's say the buyer, and I had this happen, is a first-time home buyer, nice young guy, and he brings his uncle along with him, who is a home remodeler and an electrician. When we went through the house, there were some things with the that we were looking through, and he looked at everything and he said, this is a great house. And we were in competition, and I said, well, an option is to not have an inspection. If you feel that this house, if you've looked at everything and you're going to redo things anyways, they're going to take out some walls, they were going to put in all new can lighting, And the uncle said, you know what, if this guarantees that my nephew gets the house, I would suggest waiving that home inspection contingency because I'm going to do everything anyways. And I've already looked at the basement walls and the chimney and the high priced items, and the things that may need a little tweaking, we're going to remove and fix anyways. So knowing your buyer is really, really important in this section of the offer to purchase.
And what do you do, Connie, if her buyer decides that he or she wants to waive home inspection? Other than checking that box, what do you do to cover yourself on that?
I would get it in writing that he does not want a home inspection.
Yep.
Because I had that happen also, that after we were accepted, the buyer got uglier than hell. I wanted a home inspection. Now, mind you, the house was 1.5 years old. It was a new construction. And he opted, because we were in competition, to not have that inspection. Then he turned it on me that we did not have the inspection.
Yeah.
So the builder was warranting that house for 5 years. So you need to have it in writing that they do not want that inspection contingency.
There's verbiage, isn't there, in the pull down scroll that you can put into your, or amend your like buyer's contract?
I always have the buyer, I put it in an email format and I just put it in my folder. I recommended the buyer to have a home inspection and they have, they waived it, or they email me, Janine, you recommended that we have a home inspection and we have decided to waive it and take, responsibility. Just have it in writing. Need.
And I think Kathleen just answered my question, but then what would you ladies recommend putting on this offer? Do you put something in here?
NA?
For what?
Contingency?
Well, for the fact that your buyer is waiving his inspection.
You NA. Mm-hmm. That's all you need.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh.
Right to cure. Line 217. What do you guys think about the right to cure?
I think you always say right to cure.
So on a daily basis, do we offer the right to cure or only in high competition?
I usually don't give them the right to cure.
I'm nicer than Shannon. I give the right to cure.
What if you have a buyer who
sorry.
is really, really picky and they're very, very handy?
Shall not.
Okay. What if you have somebody who doesn't even know what a house really looks like other than it might have 4 walls and all they want is to get into something and they want everybody to take care of it?
Shall.
Janine, what's another case?
So when I write an offer, competitive or not, I'm hesitant to give the seller the right to cure. You're really, giving them full power and control. So I usually will put it in shall not, but if it's competitive, and that's our subject today, then I do, but then I have a provision that seller has the right to cure up to a certain amount. Let's say it's $5,000. Buyer and seller to agree on scope of work and contractors used to complete the work. So, I mean, you're giving, but you are, but you're really not giving them the right to cure. You have $5,000 to play with, but both buyer and seller have to agree to the scope of work. And then, who's in the contractor used. I maybe not put this part in, as long as they can agree on the scope of work, because anything over that, I don't feel comfortable having the seller the right to cure.
Where do you put that, Janine?
I just put it in special provisions.
Okay.
So you said, Janine, pretty much you typically, seller shall not have the right to cure.
Yep. Or I will use that verbiage, but rarely do I give a seller the right to cure. I have to protect my buyers. And I will go over the pros and cons of writing a competitive offer and the right to cure. They have to be completely aware of what they're taking on, what that means. And are they willing to take that risk?
Right. I mean, what if they find a huge mold issue and throughout the house? What if it's in the bones of the house and the seller says, oh, we'll fix it? Well, maybe that buyer's like, no, I don't want this house anymore.
Right. Or what if, then you had your testing contingency in there. So it's going to be testing for mold or in asbestos, but how is it going to be done? And, you have to be careful.
Right. Right.
I just never want to put anyone in that position.
All set.
But you, Connie, what do you do?
I give the right to cure, but when we are negotiating after the inspection, I make sure that everything is done by a licensed contractor. And I write it right in my inspection amendment that when these things need to be taken care of, and if there's anything large, like the whole house has mold or, anything large, you can always do a notice of defects. If the whole house has mold in the bones of the house, that's really a defect, and you can get out of it that way. Especially in competitive offers, having that right to cure. I think a lot of times the sellers will fix things, and I found a lot of times
they won't
fix things, then we negotiate a different price or a seller concession at closing for it.
Which I have a question about how to explain how exactly that works to the buyers, the concessions at closing.
Okay,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
So with your concessions at closing, what happens is they will get monies off of the price because the house needed $2,000 worth of electrical work, let's say. So you'll write that in your amendment to the offer to purchase. Seller to credit buyer $2,000 at closing.
Towards their prepaids and closing costs.
Prepaids and closing costs. So that's $2,000 less that the buyer has to bring to closing or finance at closing, whatever they're doing. Then they will take the house without the electrical work being done, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And then the buyer will take care of that at closing. Of course, this is usually a little bit of reverse polarity, a couple of GFCI outlets. I'm not talking major defects in electrical.
Yeah, this is like you said, a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, and keep in mind also, like I said, everybody knows somebody. If they can take that $2,000 off of their closing cost and their uncle can come in and put in a couple of GFCI outlets, which are $5 a piece.
Yeah.
They're really ahead. So there are options also when you're writing your inspection contingency.
Really quick question. One thing that I discovered was the fact that underwriters and lenders only like them to do so much in closing costs because otherwise it becomes kind of a red flag. So that was one thing. But my big question is, as a buyer's agent, have you actually asked Connie or anyone for the actual copies of licenses for any of the contractors that were doing work? It didn't happen to me, but someone I know that happened to, where they were being asked to do some repairs, but then the buyer's agent was actually asking for copies of the contractor's licenses to prove that they were licensed contractors.
I've never experienced that. You do need to supply receipts and lien waivers.
Right.
Usually 10 days prior to closing, or whatever you write in your inspection contingency.
Yeah, this was literally being asked to provide copies of the licenses of all those contractors who had done anything to the house. So.
I have not. How about you, Janine?
I'm sorry, what was that? I was reading the comments online.
Have you ever been asked to supply your contractor's license?
I haven't personally, but I know that on our team we have. Yep, and it's usually because it was after the fact and felt like the work was not done legitimately. So then it's like, can I see that person's license, please? So
Okay.
yeah, make sure that they're licensed. I'm going to give you an example of what I did recently, which made me pause a little bit about giving the seller the right to cure. The home inspection, there was a shear crack in the basement, and the basement had been painted, but you could still see the shear crack.
Hey, what's a shear crack?
So it's a crack that is a horizontal crack. It's usually on the very lower end of the foundation in the basement. And typically it's anything from 2 to 5 feet long. So basically the foundation block had shifted. Even if it was just like a little over an inch, they're not setting up on top of each other. So what happens is from the exterior of the house, the moisture comes down, and because of that shift, that water is sitting in between the shift and creating foundation movement. So it's pretty easy to see. So we had a foundation specialist come out and said, yeah, this isn't just bracing, this is actually excavating the exterior. Huge job, and beaming all the walls, and so and I had given the seller the right to cure. So a little nervous about how that was gonna come through, and luckily enough, the seller didn't even get a second opinion and just said, okay, I'll do it. But it could have gotten maybe a little ugly.
Yep.
Could have had somebody come out and say, oh, no, it doesn't need to be excavated. It needs to, have 5 beams on, and then we're done. And guess what? That seller trumps, what we have found out. So that's where you have to be careful.
Okay.
Okay.
Radon testing. When it comes to radon testing, radon is most likely an area thing. I look at all the houses as we're going to show a house and see if they have radon mitigation system. Sometimes people are really set on this, and sometimes people don't care. It's basically a flip of a quarter. I've had somebody say, if there's any radon at all, I'm backing out. Well, we can't do that. It says it right in the offer here of 4.0 PCI per liter that the radon is, and that's what we have to stick by. So keep that in mind and discuss it with your buyer. Another thing is, are they using the basement? If it's just storage, or if they're living in the basement or living space, then sometimes people will be a little more leery of it. And like I said, some people care and some do not.
Yeah, so this is a good one. I have seen competitive offers that don't have a radon testing contingency because the agent has a conversation with the buyer and say, hey, listen, if all offers are the same and we don't do radon testing, then you are going to be responsible and aware of that if you sell your house and it is tested for radon and it's over the 4.0, you will be putting in a radon mitigation system. Right. So, that's the chance. Or you can have it tested and post-close, and you would be responsible for putting in that mitigation system.
Yep.
So
that mitigation system is $1,200.
Yeah. So it's kind of a crapshoot. I have had that discussion, and if they want to waive it, then I also, again, have them email that to me in writing, and then I put it in my folder.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Perfect. Financing contingency.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Financing contingency. What if it is cash? You wouldn't have a financing contingency, right? So that's going to be primo. That's going to be the best case scenario if it's cash. More than likely, it's not going to be cash. So there will be a seller or a financing contingency in here. So
with doing your financing contingency on line 249 and 250, it does ask for the type of financing. At this point in time, the government loans are a little bit harder to get.
Yep.
Also, when you are submitting this offer, make sure that you have an updated pre-approval. It has to be an updated pre-approval because with people losing their jobs, if they lose their job today, they cannot buy a house tomorrow.
You're kidding.
I know it's one of those things. And lenders are calling employers 2 weeks before, a week before, and the day of or the day before closing. They are making multiple calls to make sure that people are still employed before they hand out any monies for any houses.
So right, and so this is another form of competition. If all offers were pretty much the same, I can tell you right now that sellers are going to look at how much that buyer is financing.
Yep.
Who is the strongest buyer? Now, mind you, I have to educate my seller and tell them that interest rates are so low that it doesn't necessarily mean that this buyer has more buying power because they're putting more down. There are a lot of very, very affluent buyers that have the cash, but because interest rates are so low, they're financing their loan.
But we're calling it free money.
Yeah, they're calling it free money. So, you know, again, I'm going to look at more than anything is where that financing is coming from. To me, that's the most important thing. Look at the bank. Is it a local bank? That's really going to help me decide to, when educating my seller, let's look at how much they're putting down. But for me, more importantly, where is this offer coming from? Where is this money coming from?
I would take a local banker or loan officer over a Wells Fargo any day.
In a U.S. bank, Chase, any day.
Yep, those big banks right now are on lockdown. They have let go their lenders, and it's really hard to get in touch with somebody if you need information, especially with hitting your contingencies.
Yep, their underwriting department is not going to be local, so you are really, it can be a big negative. So I always educate my sellers. More importantly, it's where the money is being lended from.
Yep.
Who is lending?
Excellent.
Okay.
Also keep in mind line 265. Make sure, I know that rates are low, but they're jumping around right now. Do not put a fixed rate financing of 3.0 because today it's right about 3.5. And if I were to receive an offer that had a 3.0, that was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, they're not at 3.0 anymore.
That is a really good item to pick out because I actually got in a little bit of a bind with, this is just for just pure knowledge for you guys. When they give you their financing picture, and let's say it's 4%, make sure you check that amount with the lender in the pre-approval amount, that those interest rates match.
Make a phone call.
Yep. Because we got swindled. It came in at whatever rate on the offer to purchase, but then the pre-approval that was delivered 24 hours later had a higher percentage rate, and therefore right before it was supposed to close, they couldn't get financing, and they went back to the offer and said, look at the pre-approval letter and look what was in the offer to purchase. There were 2 different percentages, and therefore we can't meet what was written, and they're out. Yeah, so be careful.
That's a great point. Great
Yeah,
point.
it hurt. Don't want us to hurt.
Seller financing. Line 289. Seller financing is usually written in if the buyer is a little light on cash to go towards prepaids and closing costs. If you are in competition, keep in mind, if we have a $400,000 price point and the seller is financing $4,000, that price of that house initially comes down to $396. So take a look at this and what's important, what is not. I have had, and I have written over the asking price with seller financing to make up for it due to whatever is needed with the lender. And this is a lender conversation prior to writing this offer. Any questions on that?
I've never used it.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Huh. Okay, first time home buyers, a lot of times they do not have enough money to put down or to cover their financing cost. So this is where we'll write in some seller financing to help alleviate the closing costs. Moving on, appraisal.
So what if you have a cash offer? Would you put an appraisal contingency in? And I'm talking about a competitive offer.
Anybody? No thoughts at all? Did we lose them all?
Probably not.
No, definitely not.
If someone has the cash to purchase this property and they will pay anything for it and they absolutely love it and they have to live right down the street from their grandbabies, we can definitely, you know, alleviate and not do the appraisal contingency. It does make it a stronger offer, but keep in mind, if they are getting financing and their financing is contingent, quote unquote, upon this appraisal, and you do not check that appraisal contingency, they're going to have to find money to buy that house without the appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bank will do an appraisal if they are getting a loan.
Right. Now, I have written offers cash without an appraisal contingency. I've received offers cash without an appraisal contingency. And then in the middle of the transaction, buyer decides, you know what, I really do want to get a loan out. Well, guess what? You go for it.
Mm-hmm.
However, we do not have a financing contingency, nor do we have an appraisal contingency. So keep that in mind. You can finance it, but I don't care what you do, but we can't use these contingencies as a way out of the offer to purchase. I wrote an offer, a couple cash. It was priced, and we did put an appraisal contingency in there. My buyer wanted that protection.
Yep.
So really, is that a competitive offer? No, because it doesn't matter where the money's coming from if you have an appraisal contingency.
Yep.
So it shouldn't matter cash or financed. If the appraisal contingency is in there, there really isn't a benefit as a listing agent coming in and looking at those offers.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it in there, and guess what? It didn't appraise.
So then to adjust the price.
Well, the sellers were not willing to adjust the price to it was $5,000 difference. So we met in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that was fair.
Perfect.
All right. So if you're going to write a competitive offer, are you going to have a home sale contingency or a home close contingency in there?
No.
Right. So what if You may have to though. What if your buyers have an accepted offer on their property? And what are they supposed to do? Wait until it closes to write a competitive offer? You would still put a home close contingency in that offer to protect your buyer unless they are able to finance this transaction without it. So I definitely would put in the closing contingency. However, I would let the agent know that where that buyer is in their transaction with their own home sale. So typically I'll say, we've already gone through the home inspection contingency, and we have permission to deliver a loan commitment. So they already have that. I let them know where they're at in the process, but most likely it's already past the home inspection contingency. So they're going to want to know where they're at. And then be prepared, and they'll ask you, does the buyer have loan commitment from their buyers on their property? So yeah, you definitely, to protect your client, of course, have that conversation if they need and are using those funds.
Mm-hmm.
So, but don't feel like you can't put it in there, and let that agent know where they're at on their transaction.
Yep. So Janine, do you still check the box of closing of buyer's property contingency if they have an accepted offer, or do you just write it in additional provisions?
No, I always put it in there, closure of buyer's property contingency. I always put it in there. Yeah.
But you're calling the listing agent and updating them on exactly what's going on.
Yep. So I just did that, and I said, hey, listen, she already has an accepted offer on her home, and all contingencies waived. We're just basically waiting for it to close.
Yep.
Got it.
Perfect. So once again, communication with that listing agent is very important. Perfect. Moving on. I'm going to skip through most of this.
Yeah.
Where are we going? I think we're about done with the meat of the offer. Once again, additional provisions and contingencies on 537. This is where you can write that seller has the right to cure up to $5,000. This is where I would make a note with the closing contingency that buyer has accepted offer and all contingencies have been met on property 123 Main Street. What else? How are we doing, Janine?
Great.
We took up our whole hour and a half here. Woo! You guys have great questions. We covered a lot today. Anything else off the top of anybody's head that we may, and how about a love letter? I always add a love letter too, especially when it's competitive. My family would love to live in this house and grow up in the neighborhood that I did, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people do like the love letters, and I always include one if we're in competition.
Yep.
And make it as sappy as hell. Just give her.
Yeah, and some sellers are like, I could really care less. It doesn't matter. Just give them those letters, let them decide. Yeah, it certainly definitely helps that the seller, and it depends on the seller. Some are like, I could care less about that. Some it means everything to. So
yep,
it certainly is helpful.
But keep in mind, it's the seller's decision whether they're going to take one offer over the other because of the letter. And I have won many battles because of love letters. And man, do I have some buyers who can write some good ones.
Yeah.
I was not an English major, but some of these letters are amazing, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah. I had one from somebody who was in the service. They were moving back to be with their family. I bawled when I was reading this letter. It was absolutely amazing. I wanted to give her my house.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was, the tears were just rolling. And so when I sent it to the listing agent, I said, this is a good one. I'm just going to tell you right before you open it.
My God. See, when I think I told you guys, when I had my house on the market, We got an offer. It was low with a love letter. I'm like, I could care less. I don't care about your family. I don't care about your kid.
You have a black heart.
Yeah, I don't even like. So forget it.
I don't even like
the other offer without a love letter and much better. I'm like, I like you. So don't write an offer, a really low offer with a love letter, because that's not.
It has to be competitive.
Yeah.
I agree.
Let's talk about next week, Connie. What do we want to talk about?
Any suggestions from the peanut gallery?
Oh, boy. Maybe like amendments and stuff like that.
Okay. So
Kind of going along in the process.
Okay, perfect. What kind of amendments?
Like the concessions.
Okay.
Things like that.
Also,
like negotiating from the things that you might come up on the inspection report.
Okay. So inspection negotiations?
Yeah.
So my first go around, I think the thing that I had the most trouble with was knowing who to send a copy of what to. Does that make sense? And like a list of, okay, these are the people to keep updated on this stuff. So maybe that would be helpful.
Who gets what?
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you send things?
Yeah.
That's a great idea, because when you're in your transaction, some people get things and some don't. And maybe how you should set up your, Janine, do you keep a folder?
Yeah.
I keep a folder for every deal. And actually I have one right here. So my folder actually has a checklist from contract to close, when I do things, how I do things, who gets what, because I forget if I sent something to title or not. You know, and what gets sent to the lender, and what that you do not want to send your inspection to the lender. But I keep a folder for everybody with their name, real quick on their phone number, with their emails, any notes, because as you're working on things, you might have to send out a quick email and you lose their email. Maybe it only happens to me. I don't know.
You know what, Connie? Why don't we see if we can get somebody from Focus Title to Zoom on with us? I'm thinking Renee.
That's a great idea.
And have her go over her process, her lists, and what she does.
Yes.
Because I think that I'm just speaking for myself. I'm on a team, so I don't do contract to close. I don't worry about those forms. I have nothing to do with it.
Okay.
And I think the reason that some are more, and I'm speaking for myself, I am not a paper person, and I don't want to be in charge of keeping on track of everything.
Yep.
So for me to do my job at its highest capacity, I need to delegate that to someone right away. So then I can not just go on to the next client, but and knowing that my client that's under contract, that he or she are being serviced correctly.
And your transaction is being taken care of.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to get so super involved in the transaction that I am losing sight on my next deal. So let's see if we can get Renee on here next week to talk about what does her day look like? When she gets that offer, who does she send it to? Where does it go? What are the steps?
Yeah, like a flow chart.
Flow chart, because I want you guys to realize the services are available and they do it, because for me, it's definitely worth the money to have someone take over that part of it. So I'll reach out to Renee and see if she can join us next week at 9.
I love that.
I love you all.
I have a quick suggestion. If possible, it would be great to, on the sell side, looking at counter offers and multiple counter offers, when to do them and how to do them. That would be a great thing. And then last week we talked about doing an assignment of everybody pricing a house and reviewing that, but it never got sent out as homework.
That's right. I will do that. I will take care of that. I have a property for everyone to to do a CMA on.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I will post the property on the North Shore and the Lake Country page. And if we could all do that, and let's get to that. And I apologize, I totally forgot about that one. We did discuss that last week. So let's do, at this point in time, next week, the CMA and Renee.
Yep.
So we'll see what fits into her time frame. I know she has a schedule she likes to keep. And we will work in that CMA around Renee.
Yeah, we may have Renee first, and then if we have time, get into the CMA.
Yep.
Okay,
Perfect.
guys. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Have a great day. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.